Oh boy. All right, perfect. All right. Good evening, everybody. Welcome. Oh my goodness, you guys. Hey, Leader Tribe. It's finally happening. Oh my goodness. I'm so excited to be here with you all tonight. So, this is our very first Leader Tribe Live. And so, I've been looking forward to this moment because this is not just a group live, but it's going to be the start of a whole new rhythm, right? A monthly conversation where we're going to start really embodying leadership by talking it out and then walking it out together. So, not only is this our very first Leader Tribe Live, but it's also one of the stops on my virtual book tour right now. So I have been touring with my new book, Brand Like You Mean It, and I wanted to celebrate that tonight by doing something special. So you may have heard this by now. If not, I'm going to tell you, but I'm doing a giveaway raffle for those that are present on the live tonight. So I'm excited about that also. But like I said, it's only for those who are actually attending live tonight. So if you're here live, welcome again. You can have a chance to win in this giveaway raffle. So I'm going to be choosing a couple of winners, and those winners are going to be able to choose from one of three prizes from me. Prize number one would be a copy of my signature ebook, Brand Like You Mean It. Or you can get a free one-on-one authority alignment call with me, which is like a clarity positioning call. And then you can also win a complimentary ticket to another event that I have coming up, which is my VIP book signing experience in January. And that one's going to be in person. So those are the three options tonight that you'll be eligible to win just for being here. It's my way of saying thank you for being with me on this journey as I'm doing all of these things. So to be entered to win, all you have to do is show up live tonight, stay for the duration of the live, and then after the live, post your favorite takeaway that you got from the experience using the hashtag #AuthorityEra. Okay, so I'll be announcing the winners first thing tomorrow. So if you want to be entered into the raffle, make sure that you stay on till the end and share your favorite takeaway in the group once we sign off. Okay, so now that that's out the way, let's get into what we're going to be talking about tonight. So tonight I'm going to be intentionally running this one solo just to kind of set the tone for what we're stepping into. But going forward, I'm also going to be joined by other esteemed guests from within our community, right? So they're going to be able to share their stories and their insights as well. And so I'm creating this space to give the leaders in our community a platform so that you can share your story, talk about how you're making moves and impacting lives in your industry, and also pour back into the community, right? But I'll tell you a little bit more about that towards the end, so make sure you stay tuned. So let's go ahead and get into tonight's combo. I'm going to get a little bit personal tonight, so I hope you're ready. I hope I'm ready. So if you're watching live, just let me know that you're here really quick in the comments, and let's have some fun with this tonight. Let's have some fun. So I've got my mug tonight. I think I'm doing lemongrass tea tonight, which is one of my favorites, by the way. But just let me know in the comments, what's in your cup tonight? What are you sipping on tonight? Because you can learn a lot about someone by what they're drinking, right? So I've got lemongrass tea because it feels grounding, it feels invigorating. But let me see what you guys are drinking tonight. Let's see if I can see the comments here. Hey, Tanisha. Hey, Teresa. Thanks for coming on tonight. Okay, so let's see. What are you guys drinking tonight? Do we have any coffee drinkers, maybe? Some water warriors? I want to know who I'm talking to tonight. Anybody with matcha tonight by any chance? You guys are funny. Okay, so whatever's in your cup tonight, I'm glad that you brought it and I'm glad that you're here. So go ahead, get comfortable, and let's go ahead and dive into this fireside chat that we have tonight, okay? So to get started, right, let me take you back a little bit into my story. So for over 10 years, I was what I call the hidden helper, right? We got some mint tea. That's one of my other favorites, Tanisha. I love me some mint tea. But yeah, so I was known as the hidden helper, right? Or the hidden expert, as I now call it. So I was the one behind brands, behind the scenes, helping to make things happen, right? Helping to build movements. And I knew how to position others with excellence, right? And to protect the culture of organizations and to bring visions into reality. Like, that's just my thing, right? And I loved every moment of it. I still do. But I'm an architect. That's what I do. So that's who I was, right? And I always love building visions because it's just what I'm good at, to be honest. But eventually, after helping so many people, I had to learn a very hard and personal lesson. And that lesson was that even doing a whole bunch of, great things can keep you from having the courage to step out and do bigger things. And so I had to start being honest with myself and admit that what had started off as, me helping and was started off as a good thing had turned into hiding. And I realized that I was hiding behind the visions of others while burying my own vision underneath it all. And so deep down, I knew the truth. I knew that I was hiding and calling it humility. I was hiding from being seen. I was hiding from the pressures and the responsibilities that come with leadership. Let's be real, it comes with that, right? And I was also hiding from what it would cost me to actually step forward and lead out loud. But then, have you ever had one of those moments where God kind of just has to check you really quick? I've had one of those moments, okay? Definitely, for sure. And I'll never forget the moment that God checked me, because he said it so calmly and so firmly at the same time, right? But he said to me, it's time to start honoring yourself the way that you've honored others. I know, I had to let that sit. And that's when everything shifted for me. That's the moment everything kind of just clicked and started shifting inside of me internally. And that's when my personal evolution not only began, but it accelerated, because I had over 10 years of knowledge and suppressed focus that just came flooding out, right? And so that was my moment of declaration. That was my decision to stop hiding and start embodying. And that's exactly what I did next. Let me know if you guys can relate to that. Let me see what you guys are saying. Oh, thank you, Tanisha. You're so sweet. But yeah, hiding. Exactly, Tanisha. Hiding. I was the hider. Okay. Yes. I used to like to be unseen and unheard as well. Yeah. Like, it's a real thing, like a lot of people struggle with this. And so that's exactly what I had to do next, right? I had to start embodying and stop hiding. And so that evolution, that choice to stop hiding, ended up becoming the spark that birthed what I now call the authority era. Okay. And so the movement that I spearhead is called the authority era. And it's the authority ascension path that I position leaders to walk in fully now. And so because I realized I'm not the only one who's been building and serving and yet still hiding in plain sight, right? There's so many other leaders just like you all who are on here tonight who have learned how to perform in excellence, but still not fully embody their greatness. And so the authority era is the call back to alignment with who you truly are and what you're meant to do with the authority that you carry. And it's the reminder that leadership is about embodiment. And it's about allowing your identity also to just inform every other aspect of who you are and what it is that you're building. And so when you stop trying to prove your authority and start walking in it, you've entered into the authority era. But here's what I want you all to know tonight. Evolution is not just about that one bold moment. It's not just about the big decision to stop hiding and stop playing small, but it's also about what happens after, right? It's about all those different steps that you take between recognizing who you are and actually choosing to live it out loud every single day. And some days, let's be honest, it looks like confidence, right? But then other days it could look like discomfort. Some days you're clear, you're committed, you're focused, and other days you're questioning because you know where you're headed, but not necessarily seeing how all the pieces come together. Because real evolution isn't just an overnight sensation, it's ongoing. It's when you stop shrinking to stay safe. It's when you stop waiting to feel ready for everything before you start. It's when you start showing up consistently as the version of you that's been buried underneath all the roles and the responsibilities and even the fears, right? And so for me personally, evolution meant that I had to rebuild not just how I showed up, but how I saw myself. And that's the part that most people don't talk about when it comes to leadership, right? We celebrate the breakthroughs and the transformations and the highlights out loud, but we don't talk about the tension. We don't talk about the stretching that happens, as you feel that when you have to learn how to increase your capacity, like there's tension there, right? There's a stretching that happens. We don't talk about the shedding of all the old mindsets and the habits and the thought patterns that keep you stagnant, that keep you from progressing and moving forward. We don't talk about the disruption that you experience as your mind expands and begins to catch up to your mantle, right? These are all very real things that happen in leadership. But those moments are all a part of evolution. And more importantly, they're where your authority is not just forged, but it's fortified, right? And it starts in that moment that you say yes, but then it strengthens in the days that follow as you decide to keep choosing it. And so, like a lot of other people, I was that person who used to think that evolution meant that I had to become someone new. But what I learned is that evolution is not about becoming more or even necessarily about doing more, but it's about fully accepting who you were always meant to be against every voice, every influence, every fear, and every environmental factor that has tried to convince you otherwise. So it's not reinvention, it's remembrance. It's not a rebrand, it's a reintroduction to yourself first and then to others. It's about embodiment, right? It's about self-actualization at the highest level, being the highest version of yourself. And so before you need a strategy, before you need a rebrand, before you shift your marketing strategy, before you do all these other things, you need clarity and you need alignment. Clarity about who you are and where you're going, and alignment with the version of yourself that's required to get there, the version of you that your vision requires. And we spend so much time trying to figure out how to fix the external pieces, but identity isn't built from the outside in, it's built from the inside out. Right? You don't become a leader by just checking off accomplishments. You become a leader when you own who you are and what you've overcome fully. And that requires courage. Courage to face yourself, right? Courage to get honest about the version of you that's showing up now and the version of you that actually is required to lead your next level, right? Exactly. Yep. And sometimes it's also, that the gap between the two isn't necessarily because of a lack of effort, right? But it's also the presence of fear sometimes. Fear is a big factor in that. It can be the fear of being seen. It can be the fear of the weight of leadership and authority. It can be the fear of responsibility or even of success. Like that was a big one for me at one point, right? The fear of being successful and what that would mean. The fear of what it would cost you to actually lead. But here's what I do know. You can't walk in authority while you're also hiding in fear. And so the authority era begins when you choose embodiment over permission, when you stop asking for validation and start showing up with clarity, with credibility, and with consistency. And so that's what this space, the Leader Tribe, is here to help you walk out in real time. Because I believe that leaders need a space to evolve out loud, right? To have honest human conversations about what authority really looks like when it's lived and not just talked about. So that's what this community is about. This is a community for those who are ready to align, who are ready to embody, and who are ready to lead differently, not from hustle or from hype, but from clarity and from conviction and from consistency. And so that's what the authority era is all about. And that's what I position leaders to walk in unapologetically. And so before I move on tonight, let me kind of take a second to connect with you all because I know I have some comments coming in. So Teresa said, amen, I agree. Hiding also comes with fear. Absolutely. Absolutely. Moses said, identify. Yes, identity is key. Chandra said, wow, this is good. Ooh, I love that, Jared. He said, not feeling guilty for being gifted. Ooh, that's a big one. That is a huge one. Not feeling guilty for being gifted. I love that. So I don't want to just throw a whole bunch of words at you tonight, but I also want to leave you with some questions to reflect on, right? This isn't just reflecting for reflecting's sake, right? But it's insight for alignment. And so I want you to just take a second. Either you can write it down or put it in the comments or respond in the comments, whichever, right? But I'm going to read you some questions that I want you to think about. Okay. And you never know. If you want to share it in the comments, feel free because you never know how your open reflection can help somebody else. So I'm going to read them slowly in case you want to write them down. And then I'll go from there. So the first question is, where have you been hiding when it comes to leadership? Where have you been hiding? Hiding your gifts, hiding your greatness. Where have you been hiding in your life? Second question, what vision or voice have you been minimizing in the name of humility? And sometimes it's not even just a vision or a voice, but it could also be a stance, your position on something. What position have you been silent about in the name of humility? That's the second question. Third question, where have you been shrinking instead of leading? Where have you been pulling back and not stepping fully into who you are and fully into that authority that you know you have? And number four, what would shift if you stopped waiting for permission and started walking in your authority? What would your life look like? What would change? How would that be different? Okay, so I'm going to give you a second. Feel free to answer either in the comments or you can write it down, whichever. I'll read it one more time just in case you missed it. Where have you been hiding? What vision or voice have you been minimizing in the name of humility? Where have you been shrinking instead of leading? And what would shift if you stopped waiting for permission and started walking in authority? All right, so those are the questions I have for you to reflect on tonight. So take a moment, drop your thoughts in the comments, whether it's a sentence or even a word or just an emoji that says, yeah, like that really hit for me. And I would also love to hear from you in the comments. Let me know what you think about the topic tonight. So Moses said, right, the weight of success I feared since childhood. I didn't want fame just to change the world. Wow, I can relate to that so much because I was that kid too. I was definitely that kid. Jared said, when your cave has become your comfort space. Oh my goodness. Ugh, that's so good. When your cave has become your comfort space. Wow. Definitely use that for something. I'll message you after this. That's so good. When your cave has become your comfort space. Okay, I love this. Love the reflection you guys are putting in the comments for me. But yeah, like, so whatever it is for you, whether it is the fear of success, like, somebody pointed out, whether it is being so comfortable in your cave, right? Whatever it is for you, go ahead and put that in the chat because you never know how it's going to inspire somebody else. But at the end of the day, no matter what it is for you, right? It's time for us to stop playing small and evolve. That's the message tonight. Stop playing small and evolve. Okay? So that was the reflection that I had for you guys tonight. I just wanted to come in and set the tone for what these conversations are going to be like. But I also want to give you a little bit of vision casting for the next few months. So when it comes to the leader tribe and these lives that we're doing, right? I kind of want to give you a sneak peek of the vision because this is just the beginning, right? Leader Tribe Live is more than just a monthly chat or a monthly check-in. It's also going to be a platform for truth, for connection, and for you, for all of you. And so here's what you can expect in the coming months. So every month I'm going to host these fireside chats. So tonight I intentionally did this one by myself because I wanted to set the tone for the community. But in the months that follow, I'm going to be joined by other guests, right? And so these guests are going to be fellow leaders just like you, coaches, creatives, consultants, visionaries, people that are sharing their own powerful insights and real stories and lessons that they've learned while they're leading in their industries. And so I'm going to be guiding these conversations and facilitating, but I'll also be opening the floor, which means that there'll be opportunities for audience participation as well. We'll be doing Q&A. We'll be doing something new that I call the Authority Matchmaker Round, which is basically going to give you all an opportunity to connect with potential clients, with collaborators, and people that can help to further your vision. So we're going to be building a rhythm in here where wisdom meets visibility and where your voice can be heard, not just online, but in the lives and businesses of those who need it the most in our community. So this is not just my show, this is our platform. And so if you've been sitting on a story or a strategy or a message that you know could impact somebody else in our community, I want to hear from you. So this is your invitation from me personally to apply to be a guest on one of the upcoming Leader Tribe Lives, to share more about your leadership experiences and to let people actually experience your brilliance and your story in real time. So if tonight's conversation ignited something in you, if it hits you in the chest a little bit and you're ready to go deeper, definitely let me know if you're interested in being a guest. I'm going to put the link to the guest applications in this chat when we get off of here tonight. But if you also are ready to go deeper, feel free to check out my new books. This is a book tour stop for me. Check out my new book, Brand Like You Mean It. It's not just to read, but it's also the foundation for a lot of the things we're going to be talking about here and the blueprint that you need to make sure that your brand actually embodies your identity as an authority. So I kept this short and sweet tonight, but I wanted to thank you guys for showing up. I'm going to take a second to respond to some more of these comments before we get out of here. But this is our new rhythm, you guys. This is a whole new rhythm that we're setting, a new level of leadership, a new expression of your own evolution. So, welcome to the movement, welcome to the leader tribe, and welcome to your own authority era. Can't wait to help you guys walk in it even further. All right, let me check these comments really quick. Ooh, okay. Daniel said not wanting to seem cocky or arrogant. Yeah, that's a big thing, right? Not wanting to seem cocky or arrogant as you lead and as you operate in authority. But I feel like that just comes with the territory, right? It really just comes with the territory because people are either going to be inspired by what you do or they're going to be intimidated. But either way, it's not your business. Be who you're called to be. That's my take on that. Fear of the unknown and inclusivity. Yeah, fear of the unknown is also a very real fear as well, Tanisha. That's a very, very good point. It's very easy for us to be afraid of the unknown because we don't know what to expect, right? But that's where we have to kind of build confidence in identity and know that no matter what is ahead of me, I'm already equipped for it, right? I'm already equipped with everything that I need to handle what's in front of me. Until God told me create my own table. Yes, that's what you do as a leader. That's exactly what an authority does. You create your own table. You don't have to wait for permission from anybody. You don't have to wait for anybody's permission. You can build your own table. Hey, Victor. Thanks for tuning in. But yeah, so I'm going to open it up to some Q&A before we get out of here tonight. If you guys have questions for me about authority or about leadership, or you just want to share something that we reflected on tonight, feel free. I'm here for it. Moses said, the fear of standing alone and then getting weary in the stance. It's not good for man to be alone. This is good for accountability and support. Absolutely. That's why community is so important. So spaces like this, that's the whole reason for it, right? Because I don't want, especially in leadership, let's be real for a second, right? Leadership it can be lonely, right? Until you find your tribe. And so that's the whole point of the leader tribe. I wanted to create a space where leaders can lead out loud, but not have to lead alone, right? Because leadership can feel lonely when you don't have the right support, when you don't have other people that actually get what it's like to carry that level of responsibility and authority and to be responsible for others. So, yeah, this is your safe space for sure. All right. Anybody else? Any questions for me? Oh, Jared said, it's been a battle revealing who I am and God with my gifts as an influencer in the midst of those who watch me grow up with them. Helping those around Clark Kent to deal with the reality that I'm anointed to be Superman as well. Love that example. Wow. People always use that phrase like familiarity breeds contempt. Sometimes when people are familiar with you, they can't really see your greatness because you become common, right? Um, but I think, the biggest thing with that is as long as you don't lose sight of who you are, eventually they're going to have no choice but to see it because God is going to continue elevating you, right? And you're going to keep walking in who you are. But just make sure that it never lets you lose sight of who you are. Teresa said, getting started, not knowing the unknown. Yeah, getting started, right? That's sometimes the hardest part is just getting started because you don't really know what to do first or how you're going to get there or what the next step is going to be, right? But the thing I have learned in leadership after all these years is that just starting means just start with whatever you have. Whatever it is that you have, whatever is in your hand, start with that. And the reason I say that and the reason why starting is so important is because if you don't start, if you don't put your idea out there, if you don't put yourself out there as a leader, nobody's going to know what you're doing or how to help you. You have to be willing to talk about who you are and what you do. You have to. You have to be able to just step out there, right? And make it happen. And a lot of the things that they don't tell you about leadership too is that as a leader, nobody's going to come up to you unless you like have a mentor or something. People aren't just coming up to you saying, all right, well, here's the first step, here's the second step, right? The only way to learn is by implementing, is by trying, is by stepping forward. And the more you take that step in faith, the more he shows you. Every step that you take reveals the next part of the puzzle piece, a next part of the vision that you didn't see before. So it's very important to just take that first step. Whatever it is that you currently have to work with, use that and start taking those steps and talk to other people because you never know who you could be already in proximity to that has a desire to help you or to contribute to that vision that you have. You never know unless you talk about it. All right. Oh, thanks, Victor. Appreciate it. All right. Any other questions for me? What questions do you guys have about walking in your authority area and your era and your evolution? Chandra said, I love what you're doing. We need this. I love you. Oh, I love you too. Thank you. All right. Who else has a question for me tonight? Get me while you have me, guys. I'm here for you. Questions about evolving as a leader or about stepping into your authority or walking out your authority? I love this. Oh, thank you guys so much for being so open in this comment section. I love it. This is awesome. All right, I'm going to give it one more minute for any other questions that you guys may have for me. Any other questions? Or takeaways? What was your favorite takeaway from tonight or your favorite nugget that you got? Victor said, what risks have you taken and did others deem you crazy? I love this question. I'm going to tell you why. Because honestly, my husband always says being an entrepreneur is like jumping out of a plane and building a parachute on the way down. Entrepreneurship itself was a risk for me, right? I've taken risks. I have quit a job when I did not know where my next dollar was coming from, type of risks, right? I have taken risks when it comes to, my vision and what God has put in me. So I have done it for sure. And did other people think I was crazy? Absolutely. And that's their right. They had every right to think so. But at the end of the day, like it was my vision, right? And the way I look at it is this. If God has given me a purpose and a vision, I'm the one responsible for that at the end of the day. So I can't be worried about other people's opinions. Right? I can't be worried about that. That's not my business. At the end of the day, what I care about is, am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing with what God has given me? That's what I care about. Right? Am I stewarding this well? So yeah, you're gonna have to take risks. And the thing about risks, and okay, let me be clear though. I take calculated risks, okay? Don't just be out here quitting jobs and doing stuff randomly. Like make sure that you're led to do what you're doing. But yeah, you're gonna have to take risks. And I take calculated risks, meaning I count the cost before I move, right? And that's very important, especially when you have a family and you have other people that you're responsible for. So I will say that let's use wisdom, right? But don't be afraid to take the risk. And the greater the risk you take, the greater the chance of reward. So you just have to figure out how much of a risk you're willing to take. That's what I will say about that. But that's an excellent question. Jared said, I love that you became a safe place for you. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Moses said, I would add, don't fear starting over. Oh, yes, every day is a new start. Let me tell you guys something about starting over, right? As a leader and or entrepreneur, you cannot be afraid of starting over ever, because honestly, like there's a lot of that happens, right? And you have to have a very different viewpoint of what failure looks like, right? I don't really believe in failure, so to speak. I just learn the lessons and I keep it moving, right? And so yes, I have definitely had to start things over because sometimes you'll have an idea and like I said, you don't have all the pieces yet, right? So you just move with a little bit of information that you have. And when you do, you learn more about it, right? You learn things. There's pitfalls and things. And that's another reason why having a mentor is also important, because mentorship and having guidance and having community and having people that you can talk to and get advice from and extract wisdom from helps you to avoid a lot of those pitfalls on your journey, right? It saves you time, it saves you money, and it saves you the cost of making unnecessary mistakes. So definitely that's why things like community and mentorship are so important as well. But absolutely, don't be afraid to start over, because starting over is literally sometimes what you need to really get it right. Everything I'm doing right now in my business, right? I started off with, what was my company name again? It was Legacy Lifestyle Branding. That was the name of my previous company. And now it's Brand Architect Firm, right? I literally tore down my entire company and rebuilt and rebranded in 30 days and just relaunched and did everything over. But the thing about starting over is you're not starting over from nothing, right? As long as you're moving forward, you're never starting over from nothing. You're starting over with different experiences and with the wisdom that you've extracted from those experiences. So yeah, starting over is definitely like one of the cheat codes to leadership and entrepreneurship. Do not be afraid to start over and to do something new, because that new lens, that new perspective can be exactly what you need to get it right. Mm-hmm. Yep, calculated risks. That's right. Okay. Dana said, sure did. Mm-hmm. I sure did. Tanisha said, my biggest takeaway is to do it afraid and do it boldly. Absolutely. It's not my business how other people feel about my gifts. It's really not. It's really not your business at all. Gifts aren't meant to be hidden. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Love that takeaway, Tanisha. Thank you so much. But yeah, so any other takeaways, questions, comments while I'm here, you guys? Thank you so much for chatting with me tonight. This has been great. I love it. I love these conversations. Daniel said, no failures, just teaching moments. Absolutely. As long as you learn from it, it's not a failure. You got something from that experience. Okay. Anybody else? Questions, comments, takeaways? All right. Awesome. Okay, well, thank you everybody so much to everybody that tuned in tonight. And if you're watching the replay and you made it this far, thank you so much for tuning in as well. Let's just make sure we're walking out our evolution and our authority era together. Okay, that's the goal for this month. Let's walk it out together. So I'm going to be posting in the group pretty much every day about leadership insights and other things. I'll be posting some videos in there for you guys as well, just to kind of check in and make sure that you have that accountability and that support that you need, and just to kind of chat, see how you guys are doing, and if there's anything that you need from me. But yeah, welcome to the Leader Tribe. Oh, we got some more takeaways. Victor said, gifts aren't meant to be hidden. No, they're not. They're not meant to be hidden. They're meant to be displayed. They're meant to be used and service to whoever it is that you're called to serve. Jared said, is fear always a bad thing? That's a good question. You always come with the good questions, Jared. He said, is fear always a bad thing? I'm going to say yes, because I feel like there's a difference between fear and concern, right? I think fear, number one, is something that can literally cripple you. And that's why I say it's a bad thing, because when you're afraid of something, you don't move forward, right? You don't take that next step. It can literally paralyze you. It paralyzes your movement. It paralyzes your progress. But yeah, I think fear is definitely a bad thing when it comes to that. But is it a bad thing to be concerned or to have concerns? No. I think that's one of the ways that we're able to make those calculations when it comes to risks that we take. And I think our brain is naturally wired to make sure that we kind of stay in survival mode sometimes and protect ourselves. But we have to learn how to grow past that. You have to learn how to decide past what feels natural. And that's the part of leadership that's kind of crazy, right? But you have to learn how to make those decisions, right? And don't allow fear to paralyze you or to hold you back or to stagnate your progress. So yeah, that would be my response to that. Moses said that's facts. Appreciate you. I love that. Daniel said fear just means you need to investigate. Yeah, I always say that fear is an indicator that there's something you either need to do differently or something that you need to learn more about. So I think the biggest thing is learning how to lean into it enough to figure out how to deal with it. Do I need to learn something? Like, am I afraid because there's something I don't know? Do I need to become more knowledgeable about this area? Right? Because a lot of times fear is an indicator that there's something that we're just not aware of, that we don't know. And so we're afraid to approach it because we don't know what to do. Or it can just be something that you need to do differently. Do I need to pivot here? Do I need to change this? Do I need to show up differently here? So figuring out what do I need to change or what do I need to learn is typically how you combat fear, how you deal with that. And that's how you can turn that fear into fuel, right? Something that can propel you forward. Teresa said, knowing your self-worth is important. Or are you willing to invest in ourselves? That's a very good point. And investing in yourself doesn't always mean money, right? Of course, that's a part of it. But investing in yourself can also mean just pouring back into yourself. It can mean pouring into yourself through education. It can mean pouring into yourself through care, the way that you take care of yourself, through your boundaries. There's so many different ways that we can invest in ourselves that go outside of just monetary investments, right? Although I do recommend monetary investments as well, don't get me wrong. But you don't have to start there, is what I'm saying. There's other ways to also pour into yourself and just make sure that, you're taking care of yourself and making sure that you feel as worthy as you are. Awesome. All right. This was great, you guys. Yay! I'm so excited. This was a really great first Leader Tribe live. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and put the guest application in the comments if anybody wants to join me on one of these lives in the coming months. I'll put that in the comments for you guys. If you want to be entered into the giveaway raffle, make sure that you either comment or post about your favorite takeaway tonight from the live using the hashtag authority era. And I'm going to go through and put everybody's name in the raffle who did that. And then tomorrow I'm going to be announcing the winners. And so those of you who may have missed it in the beginning, There's three different prizes that you'll be able to choose from if you are one of the winners. One of them being my signature book, my ebook, Brand Like You Mean It. Another one being a free one-on-one clarity call with me, an alignment call with me. And the other one would be a ticket to my VIP book signing experience in January. So those are the three options that you'll be able to choose from if you are a winner. So make sure you guys go ahead and comment your takeaway or post it in the group with the hashtag authority era so I can go ahead and enter your name into the raffle, okay? Thank you guys so much for being on tonight. I appreciate every single one of you. You guys are so great. All right, awesome. All right, thank you guys. Oh, got another question. Okay, Jared said, what happens when purpose is the problem? When your gifts are driving you crazy because you have no opportunities to exercise them in. Ah, okay. When purpose is the problem. Is it really purpose that's the problem, or is it the environment? Sometimes I think, should I go here? Sometimes I think what it is that we know we have a purpose, we know we have gifts, right? And we're not in an environment that can sharpen them. We're not in an environment where we can utilize them, right? And so it does kind of make you feel like you're going crazy because you have all these different things inside of you and you're trying to figure out, how do I use this? How do I apply this, right? Um, but I think that's when it kind of circles back to what we talked about earlier with creating your own lane. There are times when you're going to have to create your own lane. There's just times when you're going to have to do it. But yeah, I think that might be one of those instances. So if there isn't an environment or a lane for you, sometimes you just got to create one. And that's a big part of leadership as well. Not being afraid to just create your own lane and build your own table. So that way you have a space that you've created and cultivated where you can operate in what God has put in you to do. All right. Moses said, I'm sure Noah was concerned, subtle fear. How long? Hence he turned up the bottle, but he didn't abandon ship altogether. Yeah, like we're human beings. Like there's going to be feelings involved, right? We're going to have feelings about authority, about leadership, about having a vision, especially when we're waiting to see how it's all going to come together and we're moving and making these moves and stepping out in faith. And it's like, okay, well, when is this going to happen, right? When is it all going to come together? And so there's very real feelings involved in that because we're being processed, right? We're growing, we're stretching. That's what I was talking about earlier, stretching that capacity. We're learning how to deal with those uncomfortable in between moments. So that's all a part of evolving. It's all a part of the evolution process. But it's in those moments where we really strengthen not just our character, but also our authority, right? That these are the experiences that when we come out on the other side, qualify us to tell other people, like, hey, I've been where you are. This is how I got out, and I can help you do the same. So it's necessary, uncomfortable, but necessary. Tanisha said environment. Yeah, environment is key. That's why so many people think about, I know a lot of us on here are believers tonight, so I'll throw this in here. Think about, how many examples in the Bible somebody had to move or relocate, forgot to do what he wanted to do in their lives. Just think about that. Environment really matters. Where you are planted matters to the assignment that you have on your life. Chandra said, without risk, you cannot grow. Absolutely. Absolutely. Don't be afraid to take risks. And depending on how much responsibility you have, make sure those risks are calculated. Okay. But if there's something that you know for sure that God is leading you to do, do it. Do it. Figure it out later. Obey first and then figure out the rest later. Obey first, understand it later. Is what it is. Easier said than done, right? But that's what it takes. All right. Okay. Any other comments? I can feel you guys kind of pulling on me a little bit, so I'm trying to answer all the comments that I can. Awesome. All right, everybody. I'll probably hang out on here a little bit longer after I end the live, just in case anybody else has a comment that I missed, so I can respond to you all. But definitely, thank you guys so much for being on tonight. What are we at? 8:40. Okay, made some pretty good timing. But yeah, so you guys ready for the next one? You ready for the next live? That's right. It's the process. Absolutely. I'm so proud of you all for being so transparent tonight. Thank you so much for opening up and sharing tonight and making this conversation what it was. Absolutely. Okay. So our next one, it's going to always be the third Wednesday of each month at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So whatever the third Wednesday is in November, go ahead and mark that on your calendars, so you guys can be here with me again next month. Oh, we got one more question. How important, Jared said, how important is it to learn God's voice versus your own and those around you? Ooh, that's essential. What do you mean? That is so essential. The difference between God's voice, your voice, and those around you. One of my mentors always told me that the first voice that you hear is normally God's. The second voice is typically your own. And so a lot of times we'll hear what God said, but we'll start second guessing, or we'll insert a but, or we'll insert a doubt. But what if this? And well, how am I going to do this? And how is that going to work? And da 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 da, right? We have all these second thoughts, right? So the second thought is normally you. The first thought is normally God. And as far as the voices of those around you, that's probably the easiest one to hear, right? Because you have to be mindful of the people that you let into your ear, because people are forever projecting their thoughts and their experiences onto you, right? And so you have to be very mindful of who you have around you speaking into your ear, because whatever you take into your ear, if you accept it, it starts to be embedded into your heart, right? And so we have to learn how to, when we hear things that don't align with what we know about ourselves and what we know about the call on our lives, we have to be willing to just say automatically, I reject that. I don't receive that. I'm not going to accept that, right? That's so, so important. So that's how you deal with the other voices of people around you. And when it comes to God's voice, if you're not sure if the voice that you're hearing is God's, it probably means you might want to spend more time with Him. It probably means that you want to spend more time reading the Word. It probably means that you want to spend more time in prayer. Because the more time that you spend building a relationship with somebody, the easier it is for you to recognize their voice, to recognize their patterns, to recognize the way that they think, the ways that they move, the meaning behind what they say. So relationship is definitely important, especially in leadership. So those of us who are kingdom-minded leaders, definitely make sure that you are spending intentional daily time with God and building that relationship so you know how to recognize His voice. And the more time you spend in His presence and listening to His voice as well, the more your own voice begins to take a back seat, right? And that's why it's so important. The Bible talks about renewing our minds with the Word. That is so, so important. And if you think about it, let's look at a parenting example, right? As a mother, I know that the words that I speak to my children, it becomes their inner voice. And so when God is speaking to us, the reason why it's so important for us to take in His word every single day is because that replaces our own thoughts. That becomes our inner voice. And we start thinking of ourselves and seeing ourselves the way that God does. So that's why it's so, so important to spend that time with Him. So learning God's voice, essential, super important, because that's where you're going to get your guidance and your direction from. That's how you learn. That's how you grow. That's how you know what to do and when. That's how the Holy Spirit guides you and gives you instruction. And it also helps your own voice to take that back seat, like I was talking about earlier. So I definitely think it's important. Yeah, Moses said your life and legacy depends on it. Absolutely. 100% agree. Absolutely agree. Great point. Okay. Any other questions or comments before I end the live? You guys are ready for me tonight. Anybody else? Okay, I think that's everybody. Oh, you want to come on? Okay. You want to come on the platform, Chandra? Of course. You're always welcome. Okay, so I think that's everyone. Thank you all so, so much. Hope you all have an amazing night. I will be checking in with you guys throughout the month, and we'll be doing this again in November, third Wednesday of the month. So be sure to mark that on your calendars. I'll be posting about it in the group. And be on the lookout in the comment section. I'm going to go ahead and post that guest application link for you, and maybe some instructions for the giveaway, just as a reminder for those that are going to be tuning in later. All right, but appreciate you all so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I will see you guys soon on the next Leader Tribe Live, okay? Have a good night, everybody.